When it comes time to make repairs or additions to the distribution system, we bring in heavy equipment to assist with the job. There are specific work practices that must be followed to get this big pipe from the factory or equipment yard safely into the ground. The key is to protect everyone working on the job, protecting these vital components of the distribution system. As you might expect, injuries that occur working with heavy equipment can be very serious.
Here are some of the common injuries that occur when installing large pipe in the field. Pipes and other distribution components fall on workers, workers struck by heavy machinery while unloading pipe, injuries from faulty slings, rigging devices and blocking material, and back injuries from improperly lifting pipes and other distribution components. And there are other serious injuries related to this type of work, such as portable power tool injuries, traffic pedestrian accidents, and trench and excavation cave-ins.
All of the injuries on that list can be avoided if your utility follows safe work practices, and that's exactly what we're going to show you on this video. How to handle pipe and distribution components safely in the field.
It actually starts with loading the pipe, fittings, and other distribution components in the equipment yard. It's critical these items are loaded properly so they will be transported in a secure manner and can be unloaded on the job site safely. Examine all pieces of blocking material. Blocking should be large and strong enough to support the load. Don't use pieces with large cracks, rounded corners, or dry rot for blocking. Examine all slings, straps, cables, and other rigging equipment to make sure they aren't frayed, stretched, or damaged. Use the appropriate pieces of blocking on transport vehicles to maintain a secure load. Use a spotter to assist with the loading process. Use guide ropes or tag lines from a safe distance to help balance or control long or awkward distribution components. Do not allow spotters or riggers to ride on the load or to control it by hand. Once the load is full, secure it with the appropriate straps and tie-down mechanisms. Make absolutely sure there aren't any pieces of blocking that have come loose or were damaged when the load was placed on it. Any unused slings or straps should be secured so they don't drag behind when the load is moved.
So the load is on its way from the equipment yard. As we wait for its arrival, let's take a moment to make sure we're properly prepared for the job at hand. It starts with outfitting all workers in the field with the same appropriate personal protective wear that we use to load the equipment. In many cases, the pipe we're working with will be placed near roads and traffic. If so, you'll also need a high visibility vest.
It's important to put some thought into where the pipe will be placed when it comes off the truck. The goal is to try and handle pipe, fittings, and distribution components as few times as possible to avoid damaging them. In some instances, that means stringing it along the trench or excavation so it's very near where it will be placed. However, traffic concerns, the schedule of placement, and the potential for vandalism or kids playing on the stack may dictate that it's placed in a staging area. It may even be necessary to place a fence around the staging area to keep intruders away from the pipe and equipment used to move it during non-working hours.
The pipe has arrived and everyone is anxious to start placing it into the ground. Hold on, this is no time to get in a hurry. Let's take a few moments to examine the load before we start moving it.
Block the tires of the transport vehicle so it doesn't roll or move during the unload. Before the straps and cables securing the load on the truck are removed, carefully examine all of the blocking material. Look for pieces that may have cracked or shifted during transport. Damaged blocking may cause pipes to roll off the truck unexpectedly. Even if the blocking looks secure, never allow workers to stand on the load or in an area pipes could roll off to as the straps are removed. Forklifts, cranes, and backhoes are all used to unload the delivery truck in the field. Each brings with it specific concerns for safety. In all cases, the person operating the machinery should be trained in these job duties. Make sure each piece of equipment is rated for the pipe handling work it will perform. A rigger is also needed for the unload. Examine the hook and its safety latch, chains, slings, straps, pipe tongs, or any other tools used in the unload for damage prior to using them. Warn all people in the path of the load and clear away any other obstructions before the load is ever lifted. Be aware of any overhead pipes or power lines that might come into contact with the load while it's moving. Follow crane standards when positioning cranes near power lines. Center the crane hoist directly over the load so it won't swing when lifting. Never use the crane's hoist chain as a sling. Attach the load to the hook with approved slings and straps. The load must be securely attached to the hook and the hook's safety latch closed. Riggers should keep their hands and feet away from the load when slack is taken out of the sling. All riggers should step back away from the load as it's first lifted. Lift it very slowly at first. Although pipes, fittings, and other distribution components are considered to be durable, take care in unloading them. Don't let them strike other pipes, rocks, or the pavement, and don't drag loads with the crane. Small gouges can cause stress fractures. A sharp blow can cause damage to the exterior coating of a pipe. A spotter should assist in the unloading. The spotter and heavy equipment operator will use pre-approved signals for up, down, slow, stop, and any other unloading signals. The spotter should be the only person signaling the operator unless there is cause for an emergency stop. Place pipes and components on flat areas not subject to flooding. Use timbers or blocking material to keep pipe bills from touching the ground and to prevent them from rolling. If it's necessary to place the pipes in stacks, use the same care and protection for them used in storage at the equipment yard and during transport to the field. If a pipe is to be strung along the trench, try to place it near the trench and opposite the side of the excavated dirt. Maintain the required minimum distance from the edge of the trench. If the trench is on a slope, then always install going uphill, never downhill. Place the bells in the direction they will be installed so they won't have to be turned when it's time to hoist them into the ditch. It may be necessary to place plugs or plastic over the ends of pipe as they await placement to avoid contamination.
It's now time to place these pipes and components into the ground, a very dangerous part of the job. In fact, the leading cause of death and injury in underground construction is from cave-ins due to lack of shoring or shoring failure. You should review our Safety First videos on trenching and shoring techniques and backhoe safety. But we will spend a few moments here to look at the basics.
OSHA and the various states have laws governing the protection of workers in an excavation. Generally speaking, regulations require some sort of trench wall protection for any trenches deeper than 4 or 5 feet. It's also required that at least one crew member meets OSHA's competent person standard with training to identify hazards at excavation sites. Soil tests are conducted, and a professional engineer is required to design protective systems for excavations deeper than 20 feet. Ladders or steps must be placed no more than every 25 feet along a trench so workers have a way to safely exit the trench. Sloping, shoring, and shielding are the systems used to protect workers in the trench. Sloping is cutting the excavation bank at an angle that allows the soil to stay in place on its own. Unfortunately, most pipe projects don't have the space to accommodate a wide excavation, so shoring or shielding is often necessary. Shoring is a wood or metal framework built inside the trench itself to maintain pressure against the trench walls and prevent cave-ins. When shoring is installed, always start at the top and work down. Remove shoring by starting at the bottom and working up. Trench shields are often used when laying pipes since they can move the project along quicker. Also called trench boxes, they're placed in a trench and then dragged along with the progress of the work. They're open on the top, bottom, and ends. The top of the shield should extend at least 18 inches above the excavation walls. Workers must remain completely inside the shield while in the trench, only coming out of the box and out of the trench when it's time to move it.
Again, that's a very brief look at trenching and shoring techniques. There are many aspects to this part of the job that must be considered, including changing soil conditions due to weather and moisture. Just make sure a competent person is on hand at all times. Let's get back to looking at some of the other safety issues associated with pipe handling.
Pipes and fittings will vary tremendously in size and weight. Ductile iron and steel pipe are obviously much heavier than polyvinyl chloride or PVC pipe. In any case, pipes and fittings should never be rolled or dropped into the trench from the top. This is the part of the job that results in the most back injuries, since workers are often at odd angles and don't always use proper lifting techniques. Wait for additional crew members or the proper machinery to assist. When heavy machinery is used in the trench, workers should stay at least one shovel length from the sweep of buckets and booms at all times. They should face the machinery, since it's easier to avoid trouble when you see it coming. And you don't want anything falling on workers while in the trench, so keep fittings, dirt, rocks, tools, and any other loose objects at least 2 feet away from the edge of an excavation. If pipe is lowered into the trench by a sling, some hand excavation below the pipe may be necessary to remove the sling comfortably without damaging the pipe or straining workers. Let the sling, hook, and chain clear the trench before connecting the pipe. And finally, a couple of other safety notes regarding pipe handling in the field. Since injuries can occur from traffic and worker collisions, use appropriate markers and barricades to maintain a safe working area for crew members and equipment. Use excavated dirt as a barrier between traffic and workers when possible. Pipe installation and repair sometimes requires the use of saws and other hand power tools. Workers should have the appropriate eyewear, ear protection, and other personal protective equipment necessary to use these tools. This work should be isolated from other workers on site to protect them from hazards associated with the use of hand tools.
Most of the injuries that occur when handling pipe in the field happen because we get in a hurry or in a rush to get the job done, so we don't stop to make sure that we have the right equipment or we're using the proper technique. Slow down and do it safely. That's the correct way to handle pipe and to handle your utility job.